Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I am your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Adam Butner, a vibrant board game content creator who operates under the handle TabletopVibes on both Instagram and YouTube. Adam, welcome to the Binge. How you doing, my friend?
What's up? Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great.
It is awesome having you. We've known each other for a few years now, so
Yeah,
it's always exciting to be able to chat with people that I hang with in the industry. And
right?
but I've never had you on the podcast. I couldn't believe
I
it.
know. I was super excited to see that you're like, hey, we have an opening. You should join up, and it
Yeah,
worked out.
I went to schedule it, and I'm like, oh, I know I've had him here recently. And you and I think, did a live once where you and I were just chatting, but it wasn't the podcast. So I think that's where
Yeah,
in my mind I thought, oh, I've already had him on, but you weren't on. So I'm like, oh my God, we got to get him on. Let's get his story out there for the audience and go from there. So for those who don't know you, you run this channel called Tabletop Vibes. It is
yeah,
it's a cool Instagram channel, which I love the photography, and we're gonna talk about that in a little bit as
yeah.
well, because I think you got this really good style. Like I really love the style of the photographs you guys take. Obviously, you have some talent there and probably some good equipment that allows you to do that. And then
That's right.
also your Facebook, or not your Facebook, your YouTube channel as well, where it takes that same aesthetic to YouTube, and you go
Yeah,
through a lot of content and things like that. So we're going to cover that off in today's episode. But before we get there, let's Tarantino this. Let's go right back to the beginning. How
yeah,
did it start? Like, how long have you been into board gaming? When did this whole hobby start for you?
yeah. So for me, it started. So I am actually one of seven kids.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, big family. And so my parents just made like they wanted to have time where we weren't all going and doing all of our own separate things, right? Like
Yeah.
they wanted everybody to have like we had family night, but it was game night. And we started playing Catan, and that was like the first game, and like that was it for like years. Which then evolved from family game night. Then we all got older, moved out the house, and then I was like, oh man, I don't want to lose like game night. I can't lose game night. So I made guys game night, and I had my brother-in-law, my brother, my dad. We all came together and played Catan. We
Mm.
got so like the board was like this big. Like like every like a lot of expansions. Like we got a whiteboard, right? Like winner picks the food, loser buys the food for the night. And so we played and we logged all that, and it was always high end craziness until one fateful 4 hour game of Catan where we're all just undercutting the daylights out of each other, and people were like, "We're done. We're never playing this game again."
I love it. That's the story of my household. Obviously, I mean, a bit older, so my history is starting with Monopoly and Risk and Sorry, as we say in Canada, and the Game of Life and all those kind of games. But the Catan for me is I got like literally Cataned out as a family, and it was crazy. And I think we lost Adam again. Adam's having some technical difficulties today. He is frozen. Let's see if he comes back. If not, I'm going to keep telling my story. So from my end, Catan was very much something my brother, myself, my wife, and my sister-in-law would play on a regular basis. And what I found was that, like everybody, I think a very common story out there is you start off kind of getting into the hobby, right? And you're like, oh, this is so cool. This is so much different than Monopoly. This is so much different than these other games like Risk and so forth that we played when we were younger. And it's a gateway I think a lot of people use to get into the hobby. But like Adam was just saying, it gets to that point where you start going deeper and deeper, and it becomes almost more obsessive as a game night for people, where the competitiveness can sometimes start creating bitter feelings. And that was certainly the feeling with us. Is we played that game to death, and it got to a point where quite frankly we just didn't want to play it anymore. And I remember the exact night where it was like, It was just one of those feelings where we knew that we were starting to metagame. So people were starting to carry over the experience, the feelings from, game nights we'd had before, and they bring it into the new game. And you start learning people's patterns as well too. And you start playing to their patterns versus playing to, what your particular, normal way to be playing, right? So you're actually playing to the player versus just playing the game, and it became less and less enjoyable. And so for us, that was when we finally said, you know what, we are done with this game. We will never play this game again. And we're welcoming Adam back. You're here.
I don't. It said a Zoom error occurred and just gone.
Day of the internet for Adam. That's all right. I just filled the audience in on my experience with Catan and how we decided just to end it, right? It got to a point where we're like, we are done with this game. We are Catan out. We will never play this game again. And I have to the right of me here at least 3 expansions, and that game has got this thick layer of dust on it from when the last time I played. I have yet to play it again. And it's one of those things where I think it gets a lot of people into the hobby.
Yeah, for sure.
But then you can get Catan out and you can start getting kind of metagaming between each other and things like this, right? So for me, that's where I then started jumping into, okay, let's look for some other games that have different play styles. And I think that's, for me, what really expanded the hobby as a whole, right? Because
that's I don't know where you came in, where I dropped off, but that's exactly what happened to us.
Yeah, that's where exactly we dropped off. You said you guys one night had your massive 4-hour game, and then you guys were like, we're done, right?
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not losing game night. And so I Googled 7-player games and found 7 Wonders. And that's what brought me into all of a sudden, all these games open up to me. And I'm like, who knew? Why have we been playing? Like, Catan's great, but why have we been not playing anything else? And then I just dove into the hobby like head first.
Yeah, so. For me, unfortunately, the one sibling I was playing with, we still don't really play games together.
It was that.
Yeah, it was that bad. We were playing Monopoly Deal for a while because my office was above his. Like, he owned the building that we had an office in, and so after work we would play Monopoly, and then we the same thing. We gamed that one out as well. And it's one of those things where what I realized for me was that, I grew up in a very competitive household where it was very much American style gaming, right? Where it's me versus you, right? It's attack, attack. And it wasn't until, although Settlers of Catan is Euro style, there still is a lot of kind of ways you can kind of be, I'd say, dirty in that game. And
for sure.
It wasn't until I really started like finding meetups and when I was showcasing the first game that we had brought to market, which was Tanks But No Thanks, which again is a skirmish game, very much attack me versus you kind of attacking game.
Yeah.
But that's where I was really exposed and my eyes opened up to all the other kind of games that are out there. And this world of tabletop is so wide. It's like, and I always say to people that say they don't like board games, I'm like, well, it's like beer. You can't say you don't like beer because you haven't tried every beer, and there's so many different there's different flavors and notes and tastes, and it's almost like a wine tasting, but like game tasting, right? That's what I call it when you go to a board game night, is a way for you to try different games that maybe you haven't played before. And if you don't like that versus the kind of hurt feelings you get when you play with people like in these kind of competitive kind of take that type games,
cutthroat,
then switch over to more of a Euro style where everybody's playing their own kind of game, but you got a pool of resources you're drawing from, and you're trying to get to the finish line first. That might be more of a style, or a party type game. Those might be more of the style games that fit with you, but certainly just don't abandon the hobby. And
don't do it.
Yeah, that was a lesson learned for me. So you went then from Catan, you got Catan out, then you opened up into the broad hobby. And then where to go from there? Your kind of game nights.
I mean, like, so we jumped into 7 Wonders, and because I'm an expansion person. Like, if I know that there's an expansion, now I need to have the rest of it because the game's not complete till I have all the pieces. So I just kept introducing like new expansions to it, and then just started buying games like Betrayal and House on the Hill, and then I just started like all of like the really good gateway games. And then I started finding out that I'm a Euro gamer, and I just love the grind aspect. And then like Catan, and then just any game I could try out and play, I was like, let's go for it.
Yeah.
So.
Was there a
And now here we
style that you
are.
didn't like that when you went through? Was there anything you're like,
I'm not a big party game person, even to this day, but I think it's more of my family than it is more of like the games itself.
yeah,
So like my family are the party gamers that play the party game
yeah,
for 3 hours, like it's a Euro game, but it's like a 25-30 minute game, right?
yeah.
Um, but recently I've actually started getting more, having more fun with that. I think Dead Last by Smirk and Dagger brought me back into
Mm,
the party game sphere. It's probably my favorite party game right now.
yeah. There's two that are my go-tos every single time. One is Wits and Wagers,
I've heard it's great.
which I wish there was a like. I think it was like 2012 was the most updated pack, so you're getting like
Yeah.
some of the facts in there are a bit dated.
Yeah.
So often when I'm playing, I'm like, okay, in 2012, here's what and then people have to bet on that. That one is a cool one because you don't have to be an expert at trivia.
Right.
You just have to be a good expert at kind of reading the playing field. And then that one basically,
Sure.
it's always a number based question, like, how many tennis balls would fit between Earth and the sun? Everyone writes down a number. They put it down once. Everyone's put their numbers down. They flip them over. You put them in chronological order, and then you're just betting on which answer you think is going to be closest to the actual answer.
Sure.
So it doesn't matter if you
Yeah.
guess right or not, right?
Right.
It's more about just guessing, and you can see where the most of the people are, right? And
Right.
it's kind of like asking the audience for help type of thing, and then
Sure.
you're kind of making an educated guess on who do you think was probably closest or what answer is the best. So that one is great because it plays a lot of people. People can pair up, so you can literally get 12 people around a table playing that one. And it's got
Nice.
this kind of Las Vegas style feel to
Yeah.
it, which is kind of
Yeah.
neat. It even has like the mat that rolls out. And then I would say Just One is the other one that is it's small, fits in your game bag. It's great for game night. I bring that out to every game night, especially if we have new people coming out that you're trying to introduce into the hobby because it's a simple game. And I don't know if you played that one.
I've never heard of it actually.
Oh, really? It's so good.
Yeah.
It is so
Sounds
good.
cool.
Yeah, I don't know if it's maybe just popular here in Canada, but it is. I can't even remember who makes it. It's called Just One. And it's very simple. You have a card.
Cool.
That it's a cooperative, so everyone's just trying to basically they're gonna have 15 words, and you're gonna just see how many you can get as a group. And you
nice.
pull the first card and you put it on your little board in front of you, so you can't see it. And there's 6 words, and they're numbered 1 to 6. You say
Okay.
number, so I say number 3, so everyone knows. Okay, his secret word is number 3, so they can see it, but I can't. They all write on their boards one word. They will give me a hint to guess what the word is on the card. Once they say they're ready, I close my eyes. They show each other their answers. Anybody that picked the same clue turns it face down. They can't use it.
Oh,
And they say go. And then the remaining words are left over. I have to guess what that word is
nice.
based on the words they've given me. And
That's fun.
it
Yeah,
is
that
so
sounds like a
much
good
fun.
time.
Very, very light. Very easy to play. It's got like a little
Yeah.
wipeable card, so it's
Sure.
environmentally conscious, so you're not burning
Right,
through a bunch
right.
of paper and things like that. So those are my two kind of key faves that I like to bring to game night.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. And I also recently played Caution Signs
Caution Sign. I think I've heard
by
this one as
Danielle
well.
Reynolds.
Okay.
And Wise Wizard Games produces it, and it's really fun. It's like you're drawing, but everybody has like literally you get 2 cards. One is like the like puffy dragon or something like
Yeah.
that, right? Or puffy something, right? Or whatever it is. You have like your adjective and your thing, and like you have literally 10 seconds to look at it. And then you have to draw, but you have like 10 seconds to just draw it out, and then you submit it to all the one person, and they have to try to like match the action or whatever it's doing to like the other thing, and so they have to try to assign. At the end of it, you get points based on if you're right or not. So
Oh,
and
that's
all
amazing.
it's environmentally conscious, and you can wipe it all off really fast.
And that's
So,
what's
like,
and that's Daniel Reynolds too, eh? We've had her on the podcast.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
Caution Signs.
Oh,
So
Caution
that's
Signs.
another good one.
Have to check that one out. So when you went from like your game night with your family and friends to how did that then kind of pivot into getting into content creation? Like where did that kind of come about?
Yeah, I was just like, I like playing with my family. I have friends that like games sometimes. Obviously, I was like the person that's like always talking about board games and like, here's the new board game I got, and they were like, oh, we have to learn another one, right? And I was like, yeah, this is gonna be fun. But then I started being like, well, there's got to be like an outlet that I can share my passion with, and I was like, oh, well, I know Instagram, and I was never really active on Instagram, even my personal account.
Mm.
Like I wasn't never like a big thing for me. And then I started seeing that all these people were posting pictures and getting feedback and having this community of like people just like, yeah, that's such a cool game and I love this about it. And I was like, I think I'm just gonna create my own handle. and
Mm.
then see what happens with it. And my license plate for 17 years was Vibes. Uh, Vibes 88 was my license plate for like 18, 17, 18 years. And so I was like, what could be a good handle that's like relatable to me? I like music, so vibe, right? And the
Yep.
good vibes. And so I was like, let's do tabletop vibes. So
Oh, I love it. And the color scheme and everything is very reminiscent of kind of like an 80s kind of
yeah, I was born in Long Beach, California, and I like the whole vibrant color thing. So I was like, let's go with this. And it's this last adaptation of the game of the logo is the final one, but I think it pulls together my vibe.
your vibe. Yeah, for sure. No, I
Yeah,
love it. It's awesome.
yeah.
And then
So
so in creating the content, so that first piece that you ever did, kind of jumping into the pool, so to speak, was there any
yeah,
expectations doing it, or was it like were the first
I was
couple
like,
of
I
just
hope I get one like. Right? I was like, I hope somebody thinks that this is decent. I
yeah,
mean, when you first start, right, it's like I don't know what I was doing. I didn't know how I wanted to stage a picture, or I look back at like the first like pictures I've done, or like the very first YouTube short I created, and you're like, that's awesome and super awful.
yeah,
And like, but like you just I think one big thing is just going for it.
yeah.
Having fun with it. And that's one big thing I think as a content creator to always remember that why we're doing it is for fun.
It's a good point. I was watching a video, I think it was Mr. Beast that was actually saying this, where he was giving advice on how to get into content creation. And he said, just start posting. He goes,
Yeah.
who cares?
Just
You'll
got
figure
it.
it out. He goes, the first 50 videos you're going to do, no one's going to see them. So don't worry about it. The stakes are
Right.
super low. Don't worry.
Yeah.
People are going to flick on by.
100%.
It's no big deal. We just finished a book for Board Game Binge based on the first 100 episodes. And I was
Nice.
going back through the transcripts and I was going back and through the videos. And man, those first, I'd say 15 were really rough. Like really
Right.
rough. I think the first two were on my phone and we started off on Facebook Live. So
Really?
yeah, it
Wow.
was Facebook Lives, and it wasn't even a podcast. I just started off doing
Right.
interviews with people in the industry where I wanted to kind of get some advice that I could maybe use to help, in my own journey. And I thought,
Right.
well, I'll record it in case, we'll do it live in case anybody wants to join us. And it wasn't until one of my guests had afterwards asked me like, okay, so when is this going to show up like the podcast? Like when I can I download it? And it was at that point it dawned on me, I think it's like episode 5 or 6. Okay, let's take the audio and actually put this into a podcast. And we went and
Yeah.
actually put it, retroactively put it into the podcast. But it is one of those things where, I remember how stressed I got at the beginning of trying to just make everything just right. And
Trying to
at,
get it perfect. Yeah.
and at the end of the day, I hate to say it, but nothing matters and no one cares. They
It
really,
is true. That is so true. It's true though. It is.
yeah, I mean, so you just put it
Yeah.
out there, there's literally zero risk.
Yeah.
So
100%.
just put it out there. So you started going. So how many years now have you been doing Tabletop Vibes?
Yeah, so probably five on Instagram and a year and a half on YouTube.
Oh, is that it? I would have thought it was longer. Wow,
No, yeah,
good for you.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I just like Instagram wise, I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. If someone likes it, cool. If anybody ends up ever following me, awesome. And I'm just gonna try to create pictures that because I really love art in board games. Like that's what
Yeah,
draws me. Art in board games, and I like great components. And so when I find a game like that, I try to find a shot that I'm like, if I were to look at that, I'm like, what is this? I gotta know what this is. So that's what draws me in. So that's what I try to create.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. The photography is what really pulled me into your channel. Like, and I'll just say for anybody like they're listening, I think you're at like 6,500 followers now on Instagram.
yeah, 66,899.
So almost at 7,000. Good for you. Getting over that first
Yeah.
1,000 is probably the toughest part.
Yes.
So good for you on that. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Yeah.
What led to the style? Did you have experience in photography, or is it the equipment? Like, what's your secret, man? Like it because it looks good.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I don't really I had no photography background. I just take a lot of time setting things up to make it how I want it to look, and then I just start playing with lighting and turning off lights and moving lights around or back or forward or like I have like my like signature I've been told is this red.
Yeah.
So I try to play off the fact of like making my red background pop off my photo and
Mm.
and I just mess with different ways to try to bring the photo like to life in a sense with like make it vibrant.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I would have assumed you had like background in photography or something because yeah, your
Oh, but I will
shots,
take it.
yeah, the shots are pretty
Thank
slick.
you.
So good for you on that. And then I noticed now on your YouTube channel, there's been other people that have shown up with you as
Yeah.
co-hosts. I've even seen episodes where you're not even in the episode; someone else is doing the episode. Talk to
Yes.
me about
Yeah.
that. Like, so is this a network you guys have built out, or who are all these people and how are they connected to you?
Yeah. So I was actually so I started off tabletop vibes by my lonesome, and then I had a friend who was like, "Hey, like, you want help?" And so that was Jason. He was in a lot of videos. Recently, he parted with us. He just had a baby.
Oh, congrats!
Um, so super awesome for him. And but he was like, "This is like I have to devote time with this, and like it's more than I thought." And I was like, "Yeah, it is. Good job. Like, go do it, man." So he's parted, but then going at the end ish, back half of 2024, I started having an idea. Like I know that the Dice Tower is super huge and popular, and then they bring on other really good accounts that underneath them. So like Meeple University with the Dice Tower, and I was
Yeah,
like, I mean, I don't have that clout, but the concept still remains. So like, why don't I reach out to other great content creators that I know that I'm friends with, see if they want to partner with Tabletop Vibes, and they can make videos, and I'll put it out underneath my banner. So that's what I started doing. So I reached out to some friends, and then I just actually did a video for 2025, like what's new and up and coming. So I have a buddy who's in Philly. He just loves board gaming. He's going to start joining the team. Nashville board game guy on Instagram. That's his handle. His name's Steven. They're joining up on Tabletop Vibes, and they're going to start creating content. And then just the really cool part is it's just a different version of Tabletop Vibes and things that they're good at, and like they paint minis and all the different things. So it's like being able to take on multi-facet views and bring them to the channel. So kind of
that's
my
cool.
idea.
It's very
Yeah.
smart. So with these other so these other content creators, do they have their own channels as well, or do they create content and they send it to you and you just put their content on Tabletop Vibes?
So they have their own Instagram accounts
Mm.
where they create content, and so like Steven, I think he's over 6,000. Is that 6,000 or five
Wow.
6,000 on Instagram? But doesn't have a YouTube channel yet. And they were looking to get into YouTube, and so I was like, well, I have a system right now, and it seems to be working pretty decently. So if you want to like get exposure and start learning how to do it without the risk, I guess in sense, just join up, and then whenever you want to create your own, man, just go for it, right?
Oh, that's
So I think
crazy.
it's really more about like spurring each other on to be
Yeah.
in the industry.
And it's
So
cool too, like in today's technology, like all the places you mentioned aren't anywhere near where you are, right? Like these are all remote places, right? These are people from
yeah,
around.
Nashville. I'm in Chicago. My
Yeah.
buddy's in Philly. So
So in
like
today's world, this collaborative environment where you've got this kind of work from home culture and work remote culture, we've taken that now
yeah,
to content creation, right? And saying, okay, let's
yeah,
curate this
exactly.
content into one channel with tabletop vibes.
Yeah.
That's super cool. What would be some advice you'd give to people that are kind of starting out? Like, is there certain equipment they should consider, or like, what were some of the things now that you've kind of looked back? You're
Yeah.
saying, I'm glad I did this, or maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing I waited too long because I procrastinated,
Mm,
and I think the biggest thing, and we kind of touched on it earlier, is everybody has something to offer. There's huge accounts and there's huge channels and the godfathers of the board game world, and they're great at what they do and it's awesome.
yeah,
But the world still needs what you want to bring to it, and you'll have a different view and different take on something that no one else does. And yes, we're all playing the same game, sort of, right? Um, but I think one of the biggest things is just go for it. Like it feels daunting. You don't know if it's going to work. You don't know if anybody's going to like it. It's probably going to look like crap because it is, especially in the beginning.
yeah.
But it's again, it doesn't really matter. It's just go for it and have fun like doing it. And then you'll start to get better at it and better at it. But if you never start, you'll never know and you'll never advance. So that's my biggest thing is like I took too long thinking about all the reasons why I shouldn't do it, and I just go for it.
Is it
So
too late for people to get in? Do you think?
no, never. The cool part is like there's always cool new people, and the community, especially on Instagram,
Yeah.
the community is amazing. Like welcoming, inviting. They'll give you tips if you have like, hey, how do you set up this, or what equipment do you use? I mean, or if you want to, you can ask me. I'll give you all the list of whatever, but I think the community is like just awesome to
Yeah.
welcoming in new people into the hobby because that's what it's all about.
I
A
would think
lot
on
of
that front, especially for the Instagram front, with the recent announcements of potentially the TikTok ban, right?
yeah,
You're gonna have a massive audience now port over to Instagram. Now, I'm sure most of those people that have TikTok accounts also have Instagram accounts,
right.
but usually you're gonna focus on where your strengths are, right?
Yeah,
And if TikTok creators are now forced to, leave that platform and go to another, you're gonna see a lot more content created specifically for Instagram, and you're gonna see that audience grow exponentially.
yeah,
So
I hope so. I mean, I hope for the TikTok community. Like I'm on there, but I'm not a force or a presence, and I don't
yeah.
update it all the time. So I hope for the TikTok community that it stays. But if it doesn't, and everybody bleeds and pours over into Instagram, and that just helps the algorithm and everybody that does all the stuff on there, I'll take it.
Anytime is a good time to start, I guess, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, 100%, and just jump in.
Yeah, and I guess don't try to look too slick either, right? So like I
Yeah, you don't need to
noticed,
have it put together.
yeah, and that's one of the things I would say that TikTok is really strong at is a number of content creators you'll see that literally are just face to camera and they just
Yeah,
have something to say. Like with my TikTok account, if anybody wants to follow us, it's at Tin Robot Games, at Tin Robot Games TikTok. Well, I'm still here. One of the best performing videos that I've done is just I was talking about Kickstarter. I'd finished a campaign and there was a tip that I had where I'm like, wow, I wish somebody had told me this. I'm like, I'm gonna actually do face to camera and just say, here's a tip I wish somebody had told me.
yeah,
And I did that. Nope, not produced or anything. Literally just me talking to the camera for like a minute 30 seconds, and overlaid with text, right? So people who are watching on silent mode could read it. It was
sure.
one of the best performing videos I ever had. And then other videos where I spent like hours upon hours trying to create them.
Like 40 people looked at
Yeah, a
it.
fraction
Yeah,
of the viewers, right? So really, I think people are looking for the authenticity
yeah,
and they're looking for realness. They're not looking for stage stuff. So, as a person, if you're a budding content creator and you have something you want to say, literally say it. It doesn't matter what it is,
yeah.
anything. If you think it's relevant, even I had one of my best performing videos. I was had actually at a cranberry field. So I was up in northern
Nice.
Ontario here, and it was Cranberry Festival, and I got invited with some friends, and a friend was going to propose to the love of their life there, and
Nice.
so I'm in the hip waders. I'm going through the cranberries in the water, and I pull out my phone and I just did face camera. So you know what?
That's brave right there.
I'm like, yeah, I know. If I had dropped it, thank God it was an iPhone. But I don't think I would have found it if I had dropped it. But holding onto my phone tightly, walking, and just face camera, saying, I've been thinking, what if I create a board game about cranberries, about the
Right.
cranberry harvest? I wonder how that would be. It was like 30 seconds. That's it. Again, one of my top performing videos.
That's
Right?
amazing.
It's just whip out the
Yeah, and
camera and just start talking, right? So,
yeah, I think we get hung up like you're saying about like making it look perfect where it doesn't. Like just jump on and just
yeah,
throw up something. I mean, I have videos where like I've proven to people just like it's not about how it looks. I can do whatever really quick and throw it up. I'll get a ton of views, or I can sit there for an hour and craft something perfect. And not to say that you shouldn't craft it, but
yeah.
like it doesn't always need to be perfect. Just go for it.
And certainly quantity over, I hate to say it, quality seems to be what drives the algorithms as well, right? So the more you can
Yeah,
post,
consistency
yeah,
in
consistent
posting
post. Yeah, that's probably a
is
better way to say it. It's consistent posting. I don't want to say put crap on screen and put that out, but at least try to put something consistent will drive those
yeah.
algorithms as well. So what is the plan then from here? So you've got this network you've created. I'm going to call it network if that's okay.
Yeah, no,
The
go
Tabletop
for it.
Vibes network, where you're kind of curating these different content creators into your channel. Have you planned out kind of looking forward like 5 years to say, here's how I want to structure Tabletop Vibes and here's what I think this, for lack of a better word, IP, how it's going to look when I
Yeah.
build it out? Or what's been the kind of thought process around that?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it a decent amount. I guess this year is more like honing in on what we already have like foundation wise.
Yeah.
I do have some fun stuff like my website's drops in like next week or so.
Oh, wow.
I have merch that I've gotten already. Like so things like that are like coming out. So like kind of like solidifying the brand
Mm,
and then bringing on content creators like I have or possibly more if it works out. To then just like hone what we're doing and like have a good cadence for 2025. But for the future, I'm hoping to make it like a household name. That's the idea, right? To where like you're coming to us for like, like list videos of like top 10 games. Oh, we also have people who paint. If you're a miniature paint
Mm.
person and you like to do painting, like here's some good videos on painting, and just like have in like an eclectic aspect of like videos that can help anybody and kind of just
And will
yeah.
more previews be part of that as well? Or are you moving away from previews or
No, I personally I enjoy doing first impressions of
yeah.
like Kickstarters and GameFound and things like that. Because like for me, I love like learning a new game. That's my like it's just super fun for me all the time. So I might be more of like than tabletop vibes, even though that's me, but that
And on that note, we lost him again. What I would want to say though is if anybody wants to check out Tabletop Vibes, I encourage you to check out Adam's channels on both Instagram and YouTube. I will put a link in the show notes for people to check it out. At the very least, I think his photography, you're going to love his photography. He is a very talented dude. I absolutely love his style. He's done some first impressions of games we've done as well. And I've been really happy with the quality of what these guys do. They are definitely a content creator to follow. I want to wish Adam all the best in this upcoming year in 2025. I'm going to keep an eye out for this network. I think this is a cool idea. And I want to wish him all the best. And we'll catch him on the next one. We'll see if he comes back in. No, he is gone for good. So all the best, Adam. You take care, my friend. Cheers. This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.